It's what you make it. If you don't do anything, nothing will happen. There is nothing to escape from. You have to create your own reality here.
Dolph Lundgren wasn't supposed to be human. When audiences first saw him step into the ring as Ivan Drago in Rocky IV, he didn't feel like an actor but a weapon. All cold eyes, perfect posture, and a body engineered for destruction, barely speaking yet dominating every frame, becoming overnight a global symbol of unstoppable power. But what most people never realized was that behind the icy stare stood one of the most disciplined, educated, and controlled men in Hollywood. And that was exactly why certain people couldn't stand him, because while fame turns many actors loud, reckless, and entitled, Dolph went the opposite way, showing up early, memorizing everything, respecting the crew, treating films like missions instead of playgrounds. And in Hollywood, that kind of discipline makes enemies, so much so that over the course of his career, 5 men crossed a line with Dolph Lundgren so deeply he made a quiet, permanent decision to never share a set with them again. No public feuds, no press meltdowns, no social media wars, just doors that close forever, involving legends, former allies, and one man who even challenged him to a real fight in front of the media. And when you hear who they are and what they did, you'll understand why Dolph didn't yell, didn't retaliate, and didn't forgive. Jean-Claude Van Damme, the rivalry that nearly turned violent. The first name on Dolph Lundgren's blacklist is also the most famous, Jean-Claude Van Damme. And while the rivalry is often treated like an action movie myth, two muscle-bound icons clashing in the golden age of action cinema, what happened between them was neither playful nor staged and very nearly turned physical, with tension building long before cameras rolled on Universal Soldier in 1992. When what looked like perfect casting, a Belgian superstar known for flexibility and flair paired with a Swedish powerhouse defined by discipline and raw force, quickly became a pressure cooker as Dolph showed up like a soldier with gear ready, lines memorized, and blocking studied, treating the film with respect, while Van Damme arrived as if the movie already belonged to him, adjusting scenes on the fly, demanding extra takes to showcase another kick, insisting on lighting changes to look more heroic, leaving crew members to later say it felt like managing two alpha predators trapped in the same cage, a sentiment one French journalist captured by quoting a crew member who said every day felt like watching two lions stare across a field, waiting to see who would move first. But the moment that sealed their hatred didn't happen on set. It happened at Cannes, where during a press event surrounded by cameras and reporters, Van Damme stepped toward Dolph without jokes or smiles and told him to come outside and finish it. A moment many laughed off as a stunt until it became clear it wasn't, something Dolph later acknowledged privately when he said that if he had agreed, it wouldn't have ended well for anybody. A single sentence that explained everything. And even decades later during The Expendables 2, the tension never faded, with Van Damme pushing for creative changes, Dolph ignoring him entirely, the two sharing scenes and dialogue but never a single casual conversation, no jokes, no small talk, nothing at all. And when asked in 2018 if he'd ever work with Van Damme again, Dolph didn't insult him or explain himself, he simply asked, why? What's left to prove? And that's why the feud never healed, because neither man ever stepped back. Steven Seagal, the ego Dolph walked away from. If the first rivalry was explosive, the second was something else entirely, Steven Seagal. And while people love to joke about Seagal's ego now, Dolph Lundgren never did because he experienced it up close. Not on a set, but in a private meeting for a potential action film where everyone expected a normal table read with scripts, coffee, and handshakes. Only for Seagal to arrive wearing sunglasses indoors with a security guard and, before anyone could even sit down, look straight at Dolph and say, "You should know I'm the top fighter here." A greeting that didn't make Dolph angry, but confused, especially when Seagal followed it with, "I don't take hits on camera." Ever, a moment that told Dolph the project was already dead, as the meeting continued with Seagal pitching himself as an unstoppable legend and demanding the script be rewritten so his character never struggled, never bled, and never lost, forcing producers to smile through obvious embarrassment until one of them leaned over and whispered, "He wants to be bulletproof," and the stories didn't stop there, as stunt performers quietly warned Dolph that Seagal loved demonstrating techniques that actually hurt people, including one stuntman who showed up the next day with a swollen wrist and said Seagal told him pain builds character, something Dolph never forgot and later summed up with a single sentence, "Discipline impresses me. Pretending doesn't," which wasn't shade but a verdict, because after that meeting Dolph told his team he would walk off any project the moment Seagal's name appeared. And although studios tried pairing them multiple times over the years, every door closed, making this a feud that didn't explode, didn't make headlines, and ended quietly before it ever truly began. Mickey Rourke, when respect turned into humiliation. Mickey Rourke was different, and this one hurt, because Dolph Lundgren respected him, which is why their conflict didn't explode in one loud argument, but instead grew out of a slow, grinding erosion of professionalism during the filming of an early 2000s action thriller shot in Eastern Europe under brutal conditions of freezing temperatures, long nights, tight schedules, and total exhaustion, where Mickey arrived on set carrying pages of handwritten monologues and insisted on inserting them into scenes, not small tweaks but entire paragraphs about trauma, guilt, religion, and war that were never in the script, leaving actors frozen mid-scene and Dolph struggling to stay consistent as Mickey shifted the emotional tone every time the camera rolled, until one night when a tense two-man standoff scheduled for 10 p.m. didn't begin because Mickey failed to show up until 1:47 a.m., strolling in with a cigarette in his mouth and saying he needed to walk the city to get into character. While the crew had waited nearly 3 hours and Dolph stood in full costume the entire time, prompting Dolph to quietly tell the first assistant director that if Mickey left again, they should shoot without him. But the worst moment came later during a blocking rehearsal when Mickey shoved the script supervisor aside and shouted, "Don't tell me how to feel a scene. I feel it when it hits me," before looking at Dolph, smirking, and adding, "Some guys act from instinct. Others just flex," a line that silenced the room because it wasn't teasing but humiliation. And when filming wrapped, Mickey skipped the entire promotional tour, leaving Dolph alone to answer questions, never apologizing, never calling, never acknowledging the tension, leading Dolph to never say he hated Mickey, only to state calmly and finally, "We won't share a set again." Tom Berenger, the line that couldn't be uncrossed. Tom Berenger's betrayal wasn't loud, it was calculated, beginning in 2002 during a war action film shot in Slovakia, where Dolph Lundgren arrived expecting discipline while Berenger acted as if the entire production revolved around him. And within the first week, Berenger started showing up with rewritten pages that conveniently expanded his own dialogue while trimming Dolph's, something the director tried to smooth over. But the crew immediately noticed as each day, scenes quietly shifted, so the emotional weight landed on Berenger alone, until the breaking point during a night shoot at an abandoned steel factory, when a scene meant to be short and sharp stalled because Berenger refused to shoot unless he delivered a long improvised speech he'd written himself, dragging on for nearly 2 minutes and killing the tension completely, prompting Dolph to finally step forward and say he's hijacking the film, after which Berenger walked back to his trailer without a word. But the real betrayal came later during post-production in Bratislava when an editor privately told Dolph's team that Berenger had requested several of Dolph's shots be removed, medium shots reduced, reaction close-ups cut, replaced with inserts of Berenger's face, because he wanted the movie to feel like a solo character study, a line Dolph couldn't ignore. So he finished his ADR sessions, walked out, and told his agent, "If Berenger signs a project, I'm not interested," a rule he has never broken. Brian Thompson, the quiet rivalry that never healed. The final name on Dolph Lundgren's blacklist isn't the loudest, it's the quietest, Brian Thompson, and their tension began not with explosions but with small comments, backhanded compliments, and subtle digs that never felt accidental. Starting when Dolph was dealing with overnight stardom after Rocky IV, while Thompson quietly told casting circles he had also been considered for Ivan Drago and would have brought more depth to the role, then continuing at industry events where Thompson slipped remarks just loud enough for Dolph to hear, like "Some roles are written flat," a line everyone understood, until things escalated during a table read in the early 90s when Thompson challenged lines that made him look weaker, interrupted blocking, and smirked, saying, "Let's not make this look like a weightlifting contest." But the final straw came years later at a Las Vegas fan expo when, during a Q&A, Thompson mocked the iconic line, "I must break you," claiming he would have delivered it with actual feeling, earning laughs from the crowd, news that reached Dolph within minutes, and led him to skip his panel that afternoon and do private signings instead, something he had never done before. And from that moment on, Brian Thompson simply vanished from Dolph's world, with no confrontation, no argument, just silence. Dolph Lundgren didn't scream. He didn't expose anyone. He didn't fight back publicly. He simply chose discipline over chaos. In Hollywood, fists fade, but disrespect lasts forever. So out of these 5 names, which one shocked you the most? And do you think Dolph was right to cut them off for good? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more untold Hollywood rivalries and behind-the-scenes drama, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because there's a lot more hiding behind the smiles.